Oh, hey everyone. Michael here back for another episode of the Street Smart Ventures podcast. I am so happy to have our ultra VIP guest, Rai Crear here. Ray, thank you so much for joining us.
No, no, no. Thank you, Michael, for having me. It feels so good to kind of come back to our old stomping grounds together. So I'm super excited. I'm like, let's just get into this. I'm so excited.
Okay, yes. So for all our listeners and viewers, I've known Ray for about 10 years. And so we were,
Yes,
before we hit the record button, I just need you all to know we were giggling like little kids in the sandbox. I think that's what I said before we hit the record button. So
yes.
you're going to see a lot of smiles. You're going to see, some giggling going on. But make no mistake, this episode is going to be chock full of learning from Ray, her expertise. I brought her in not only because I love her,
Uh,
but because as we all know, Street Smart Ventures really helps young people gain skills to move forward, to figure out, hey, what's next for me? What can I learn? What can I try? How can I grow? We're all about that community connections,
right.
really building people up, building communities up through tools, coaching, custom events, pop-ups, all that. And we're so much more on the horizon. So that being said, Ray, I just want to dive right in, and knowing my top number one question is, I'd love to kind of hear your entrepreneurship journey. And did you always feel that call to be an entrepreneur?
Well, Michael, considering the fact that, our heart has been in, helping young adults and things like that, at first, I can't say that it was, right? Not until I made the transition into doing something passionate, right? So as soon as I like realized that I wanted to go into entrepreneurship, it wasn't until I realized that I didn't have any money. And that was literally the start of kind of creating something for myself that I knew not only was I passionate about, but I would also make money with. So I knew the quickest thing that I'm good at, fashion, right? So I was like, hey, I know how to put together some pieces. And I went from there. I created a t-shirt. And from there, the support was intense, and then it kind of inspired me to kind of go forward and explore all the different options. It's really interesting when you can drop a piece of clothing or something, or have a piece of art or anything and just put your own price on it, and people have to adhere to it. So I think that was the kind of start to the fact it kind of felt like magic.
Mm. So you brought up a couple of good things. I want to honor, you mentioned like you started from nothing, like right off the
Yes.
bat, like because I think and this is not trying to be shady, but
No,
we've
bring
all
the
kind of
shade. We love
we
that.
all kind of seen the articles of some celebrities or business owners, and they're like, I'm self-made, and
Literally.
I'm like, girlfriend, doesn't your family have like a trust fund on a
I,
wall on Wall Street
that
somewhere, or like
exactly.
doesn't your lineage go back into Hollywood somewhere? And I'm not trying to
Yes.
discredit. That's great for them. I'm not trying to be like that. But I think there's something so powerful, and we need to hear from people who didn't have those resources, because that's what I really want to highlight, is what got you
Absolutely.
over that of like, oh crap, I don't have any money. Like, what was it like for you? Was it like fear? Was it like anger? Like, I just wanted to know, could you elaborate a little more on
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. It was absolutely fair. We all know that sometimes when you're scared, it can either propel you into doing some of the craziest, wildest things that can work for you, or it can literally propel you into disaster. And with me, I just had faith. And I think if you have more faith over fear, that something can work. I think that is possible. And I think being an entrepreneur, having a dream, starting anything that you're passionate about, or and just putting yourself out there, you have to have the faith and the hope. And if you're religious, or just have that spirit behind you, to kind of rally up everything that you want to do.
Mm. You brought up a good point with faith, and I kind of want to dive into like, so with you, obviously, you did a lot of this on your own, but did you have anyone who was in your corner, or you leaned on, or like you had that support?
Yes.
Because so many, um,
Great
you
question.
know, I don't want to take for granted the people I've had in my life, and I don't
Right.
want to assume anything on your. And I'd love to kind of hear, what was that like for you? And again, you talked about you started from nothing. You kind of figured out, hey, I love fashion. I'm passionate about this, and that's incredible. Um, but I think there's often this kind of like, what do you call it? Just like um, commonality that like it can be really
Yes.
lonely to be an entrepreneur. So I just love to kind of hear like, was it truly you solo and it's that, or did you have people who also were there for you, gave you ideas or like feedback? And just what
Yes.
was that startup process like?
Absolutely. So I can absolutely say, while I am a loner, a popular learner, I'll say, I have a creative community that is like, that they absolutely rock. I mean, of course, I have my family support, but your family doesn't always see you in your business hat sometimes. So they kind of don't always respect that, because sometimes people just always see you for what you are and how you present, right? So sometimes your craziness, you have to bring it to the people who can imagine those things with you and kind of take them all the way to the next level. So I have friends in the music industry, fashion industry, just friends who have already had successful t-shirt businesses, friends who just have successful businesses in general. I reached out. Some of them reached out to me. They saw me doing something cool and they're like, oh my gosh, I can connect you to this person. They're local, they print shirts. I can connect you over here. They do marketing and things like that. But the good part is, I kind of knew where to start because I did the research. I knew everything that I needed to know. It was just building off of that. And I went in being positive and not thinking that I was a know-it-all, right? Because even though I think I know things, some people have a really, really, really deep insight because they've had the experience already. So
Mm,
absolutely had a lot of support, had a lot of people buying, and then it also helped me to start other uh, ventures and partnerships through that support. So
mm.
each one teach one. Love it.
No, that's incredible. And you are, and our listeners, after they view this, are going to know you are such a giving person, right? I think that
I
kind of
am.
goes back, is it really is like what you give is what you get, right? It sounds
You're
like you're
right.
affirming it really is in a business journey. Like, yes, it is on you as the entrepreneur, but you need to make sure you have those connections. You
That's
are
right.
also being generous of yourself anyway, because we're all there to help each other as a broad and global community.
Absolutely. Just bringing back the love piece of it, the collaboration over competition. You just realizing that, there are people who are rooting for you, so let's pay more attention to those people than the ones who aren't. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that has kind of helped me to grow my business, to scale it, and to literally just, keep going, which is the hardest part, because the
Mm-hmm.
consistency, with entrepreneurship is the number one thing. If you keep going, a lot of people just fall off. They don't stop. I'm sorry, they stop and then they disappear, try to rebrand. You know how it goes, but
Mm-hmm.
just stay committed.
Yeah. So I want to double back on a couple things you mentioned. You
Yeah,
talked about that imagining process. I kind of like, you mentioned something in terms of like seeing things beyond the now. And I say that a lot. So,
yeah.
like, when you are thinking of new products, new ideas, what does that creative process look like for you? I know it can be a very personal thing, but I'd love to kind of hear more about that for you.
No, I'd love to share. I am inspired by life. I'm inspired by the moment. So that can mean anything. I could be outside and I could just see, some trees, just enjoying like nature, and it could just invoke something really creative. So there isn't anything that doesn't inspire me. So but I realize that too much of anything um can sometimes pardon me, I'm sorry. Too much of anything can kind of water down this scene, how I like to say. So even though I do have all these different designs and all these creative processes, um, it takes a while to get to the final product to
Mm-hmm.
what everyone else sees. So a lot of my inspiration is behind the scenes as I'm building, but that's what keeps the consistency, is just always consistently staying inspired and being in a place, an environment that can allow you to, be creative. It's really, really important that you are around things and people and different vibes that kind of help cultivate your vision. Because without it, yeah, you'll be just like everyone else, right? Kind of just stuck in your head and then it goes nowhere. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. which brings me to my next follow up, right? You're so good. Okay, so because I love how spontaneous you talked about it really is in the moment creativity. But earlier you mentioned how you had a plan. And so I'd love to have
Yes,
you talk about what was that business plan like for you? How formal was it? Did it change over time? Because I think so many of our listeners and young people who are
absolutely.
interested, this is going to be like such a key nugget too.
Yes. This is actually one of the biggest pieces that I would really like to speak on, because I think a lot of us, young folks coming into all these different ventures and businesses, yes, the blueprint has been there, but a lot of people haven't done it with the lack of resources or with the passion that some of us have. So, yes, my business plan started off as a Facebook post as I was laying in bed. And I said, the goal, and with finances and money, it's like it seems like, hey, this is how much something will cost. This is how much I need to make to, make my overhead. And then you kind of forget about the other stuff, right? You forget
Mhm.
about the shipping, you forget about your website, you forget about the marketing, you forget about all these little smaller things, right? So as you grow into the business, you realize, hey, I do need other things just in t-shirts and a design. I'm going to have to get gas to go this way and that way. So you kind of start to add all those things into your plan. And before you know it, it's changed so much, because what I first started off, with the brand, was my goal was to just have people wearing it, right?
Mhm.
And to just spread the word. But even though deep down inside, what the mission is to make people feel good about themselves. Because again, when you wear clothes, they aren't supposed to make you, you're supposed to make them. You're supposed to turn them into whatever it is that you're feeling that day, or whatever it is that you're feeling that week. And once you realize that no one person stays the same, I think that's where you have to evolve with your business plan, right? You kind of have to look at the trends, especially with fashion. Um, we have a wellness shop. We do smoothies and things like that. We created a menu that highlights what everyone likes, right? You have the people who prefer um, fruity drinks. You have the people that prefer the chocolatey things, and you just, see what stays, and from there you kind of just grow. So I definitely think if you can just iron out your mission, your goal, and stick to that, and then every 6 months revisit, reevaluate the data, look at what's been working, what's not working, and switch that up. It's worked for me, and if anyone needs help, of course I'm always here to give a listening ear and a helping hand.
Oh, thank you. And you're making this so easy, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, okay. They're such gems. So, no, because I think that's a great point, right? And I'm, full disclosure, I'm not a, I guess in a way I'm an entrepreneur, but I'm not like full on ever on your level. But I will
Oh,
say,
please stop it.
no, no. But what I was agreeing with and like in her, because I'm like shaking my head the whole time. Yep,
Right,
yep, yep.
you're giving it. I love it.
I'm getting into it as always with you. But I think when you said see what stays, look at the data, and I think that is such a key thing, right? Is adapting, and I think
Yes.
like, and I kind of want to ask you, like, were there any surprises? Did you have like one day, like, oh, this is did not go the way I thought, for
Oh,
better or for
yes.
worse? I'd love to
That's
hear more on that.
literally, business is like day-to-day life, right? I literally can say the things that you think are going to work out, sometimes they do not. I literally invested probably like couple $100 on a design, on a plan, on some models. I mean, a whole shebang. And in the end, not one of those products sold. So, yes, there's that moment sometimes where you realize I maybe should have looked at things a little bit differently. But then you also go, you know what? I believed in my design. I believed in the creativity. I believed in the process. But there was something that did not transition into the public correctly, where there's something, you know what I mean? Or maybe they just weren't feeling
Mhm.
it. Then you kind of have to revisit all of those different things. And then it starts to go back to the business plan. And then you're like, okay, is this just something like a risk that I took? Or is this actually a part of my plan and something that I need to readjust? So
Mm,
it happens all the time when you're having when you're creating something from your from your brain and kind of just hoping that people can see the vision and like what you like.
mhm,
Of course it can go left. I
mhm,
mean, art is so, I like to say art is dangerous, right? Because it can be whatever you make it. And sometimes the people like it and sometimes they just hate it. But there's always someone to tell you to, hey, try that again or do that again. It's the do it again, try
mhm,
again
mhm,
that
mhm,
will make the difference between you failing and you succeeding. Just keep
mhm,
going. One
mhm,
one person doesn't make your brand, and two people, won't end it. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So it's like
mhm,
you have to, don't necessarily think that one or two people not liking something means that your brand sucks, or that
mhm,
you're not on the right path.
mhm,
Sometimes you have to pivot to the right audience as well,
mhm,
right? So
mhm,
there's so many different learning curves in why something didn't work, that there's so many different ways to explore it to make it work rather
mhm,
than to just give up. So
mhm,
yeah, I've been through it. I have been through it. I'm like, I've had models not show up. I've just had terrible days of products not being delivered. I've had terrible designs not being able to like lay right on the
mhm,
t-shirt or the hoodie. It's just been a mess. But it's
mhm,
also been a beautiful mess as well. So
mhm, mhm.
there's
Maybe
the
maybe
balance.
that's a future design, a beautiful mess. Like
Okay.
that's right there. I love.
Ooh,
Oh,
I
okay,
like that. No, that was so good, Michael.
okay. But let me just say
Stealing
that. So
your
yeah, I'm
design.
writing that down. A beautiful
I was gonna
mess.
say stealing your design. See, it takes
Uh,
a community, It's really important.
but what I will say about you and what knowing you so well is you stand for self love, and that's what I
Absolutely.
off the bat would say about what you do as an entrepreneur. So it sounds like when you had those moments of things being different than you thought, how did you walk the line of, okay, like, yes, you believe in yourself and what you're doing, you have to be open to what's different. How do you balance that in terms of keeping that confidence, that right mindset, but with not being entering into like being naive and like just kind of like
Right.
not changing course? Because like you said, keep trying. And how much do you like change when things don't go a certain way? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Absolutely. Well, um, first and foremost, prayer. I am very, very spiritual. And when there's a moment where I can't guide my steps, I know that there's something deeper that can help me. And when in doubt, revert back to the plan. And this is why it's always important to create that business plan, even if it is something as basic as, hey, I want to sell 100 products for this reason by this day for these people, and just like have it down packed. And then from
Mm-hmm,
there, it will just cycle back. You always have something to go to. I also have my four different vision boards that I've done from 2019 when I first started
mm-hmm,
until like actually going full throttle now 2023, full entrepreneurship. So if
mm-hmm,
when you just look at the dream, right, the inspiration, and you'll know when too much is too much and when you are driving away from your brand. But most importantly, it's all about just having the confidence in who you are. If
mm-hmm,
you stay true to yourself, the same morals, the same values, your same goals, it'll work out. and
mm-hmm,
and I can guarantee that, because being yourself and putting yourself first will always work. It will always work. And there's no one to debate that, because it will always work. Maybe not in the way that you saw fit, but there is a I always say there's a guiding light over our lives. And when you stick to what you're supposed to do, what your passion is, and you live righteously, you know what I mean, for the most part. And
mm-hmm.
when I say righteously, I mean you just mind your business, right? And you just do what you got to do for you and yours and your
Mm-hmm.
business, and it works. And when I say mind your business, I literally mean just that. Entrepreneurs, mind your business. See where that is?
Yeah, right there. Another T-shirt idea. Another
I'm
brand. Like,
telling you, they're coming out every see,
yeah.
and this is very important to be around people who it can just flow out with. Like Michael, I mean, I got to give you about $1 billion after this. I mean, come
Listen,
on.
I'll listen. I'll help you out. You need a model. If you got a cancellation,
Of
I'll
course I
fly down
do.
there. Listen.
I'm gonna
Well.
always need you, and I'm not super scaled right now, but I didn't stop what I'm doing, and I still have people like asking for things, so that's when I just realized that what I created is not just a clothing brand, it's a lifestyle brand,
Mhm,
because people are looking to the brand to find what I felt, right? Digging deep sometimes, and realizing that, wow, I really don't think I'm going to have it today. I just don't have the energy. But then you look up and you're like, "Oh my favorite sweater.
mhm,
Like, I can totally wear my favorite hat today." And it just may do something for you. And it may do the same thing that is done for me, and that's just, I know it sounds crazy, but it's almost like a costume, or
mhm.
like a sense
Oh yeah.
of,
Mhm.
right? Like you
Yeah.
can literally wear it and just hide behind your the confidence in
Mhm,
what you're wearing. And I always tell like a lot of people that, right? And my goal eventually, right? The bigger goal of
mhm,
the entire situation is to be able to have my own storefront, and I get to do different consultations with women and men who's ever shopping, children. They get to come in, and we style and dress for your body type. And if you want, you can also sign up for therapy or whatever it is. But it's just being presented all in one place, because a lot of
mhm,
people don't realize that sometimes feeling good really does start from within,
mhm, mhm.
right?
Yeah, and I've got about a billion follow-up things I want to ask you, Ray. So
Ah, no, I
let me
kept
hold on.
going.
I
I'm
check my
sorry. I
notes
was just
here.
like in the moment.
I'm trying to do it for you listeners, where I make sure I get all the nuggets without keeping Ray here for like 5 hours. Okay,
Because we can do it. We can totally
we,
do
we
it.
can do it, but there's gonna be, yes. This is more than just one recording for today.
Right.
Believe you. Okay, so I want to. I think I first want to come back to you with, what would you say to someone, whether it's a young person, a current
Mm.
business owner, entrepreneur, who does not feel confident or has never had a good experience? How, like, what would you say to them?
I honestly, if they would allow me to grab their hand, I feel like there's some sort of comfort in grabbing hands, or just feeling a part of a situation. But I even put my hand on their shoulder, and I would just literally tell them to have faith. And I think that is just that simple. I think that if you are passionate enough about something, and if you have just a little bit of resource, and when I say a little bit, I mean you can make something out of nothing. We've seen it happen a million times. If you just have a little bit of that passion, a little bit of faith, kind of a little bit of resource, anything
Mm-hmm,
is possible.
mm-hmm,
Literally anything. So that's it. Just have faith, and just get back to your roots. Get back to it. And once you get back there, it's like you can almost start over, or find your way again once you get
mm-hmm,
back to your root.
mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah,
And
it's so. This may be a little odd. I'm a visual person, right? When you were talking, I'm
yes.
like, I was thinking of Cinderella and the fairy godmother when she had that dark
Yes.
moment of like running out in that garden and like
Yes.
rock bottom, and then the fairy godmother came and it's like, as
That
long as you
is
have that
how
hope, that faith,
I don't know
that
if
that resource changed her life. I mean, obviously
yes, and I'm
that's
gonna
the
be honest.
below.
So there was a show on, I'm not sure what it came on back in the day when we were growing up, but they would, so say like so you and I are friends, and you're like, you come to the show and you're like, "Oh gosh, Ray, I'm just so sick of, the way that she's just such a beautiful girl, but she doesn't express herself in her clothing. She just does this and does that." There was a man and a woman, and they would make over people, right? And it inspired me.
Oh
Do you
gosh,
know
I
what
know what
I
you're
know
talking about.
you know
Is
it.
it? because I watch way too much TV. I gotta
Me
like admit,
too.
I'm like a walking TV guide. Oh, do you know what? Oh, yes, I
I
do.
totally
I
know
think
you know it. And it may have just been called
is
something
it what not
intuitive.
to wear? Is that what you're
There it
talking?
is.
Oh my. Okay.
So that was my inspiration. And of course, having my own experience with, self-love and sometimes feeling down and, not always what people see, right? You have to deal with your own self and things like that. So my expression was to, again, be giving and make other people feel good. That makes me feel good. So when I see people growing their confidence and feeling happy about what they're wearing, or just not even what they're wearing, just in general, their spirit, their energy, that makes the world a brighter place to live in. If everyone's well dressed with a great attitude
Mhm,
and having faith,
mhm.
I mean, what is there to be mad at?
Yeah. No, and as you're talking, Ray, and obviously, I mentioned like the Cinderella thing, hope, faith, resources, connection, love, all that. And I think where I
Yes,
was going with my next follow up was we are so passionate about helping to support young people because we both have gone through our own experiences, our own
absolutely.
expertise, our own difficulties as
Right,
just as humans, right? And so I think we are passionate about lifting young people up and our communities up. And as you were talking too about like looking your best, feeling your best, that to
right,
me is a very tangible, tactile pathway to feeling like I'm worth it. I can go forward. I can try something.
right.
And I
You are
think
absolutely
whatever it be, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, to help that person move forward is incredible. So I was really excited as you were talking about your brand and what you're doing is because there's so many disconnected youth, which is all over the news and so
right,
important. And just thinking like you're meeting such a need and providing that hub, that safe space, that mentorship,
right.
that guidance, just different pathways. So I'm just giving you so much credit, Ray.
Well, thank you so much because I'm working to get it. I am literally trying to figure out how we can kind of close that gap between fashion, young adults, and mental health and business expansion, exploration, like all of that stuff. There is, the industry, the fashion industry is just, it's so lively, it's so vivid. There's so many different ways um, to really break into it. And I think the young adults have such a hold on society that they're literally deciding what's gonna be good, what's gonna be bad, what's the looks, what's this. They don't realize that you guys have so much power, not only in politics, not only in fashion, not on like in literally everything. You guys hold the key to a lot of decision making. And I think it's important that you start to discover your voice, right? And
Mhm.
usually with entrepreneurship, it really helps shape that. It helps to shape your voice because no one is speaking up for you, just you. When you're the boss 24/7. And just like in life, you are the boss of your life 24/7. I mean, 18 years old, right? I believe that's the case here, right? Once you're 18, you're the boss. But yeah, we don't want to put any feet in any mouth, I just want to be make sure. But yeah,
No, yes, we are. We aim to be factually correct on this. Always
yes.
funny, always inspirational, always educational, but correct. So yes, I
Okay,
love the.
most
Yeah,
importantly,
once you're 18, yes, you are the boss.
the boss. You are once you're 18, and then yeah. But I think that's the key. Just have that faith. Remember who you are. Stay grounded, and keep a Michael around you. It works every time. Yeah,
Thank you. No, but also I kind of okay. So I want to follow up on a couple other things too.
of course.
Um, what would you say to someone who's like, oh, Ray, like maybe you come across someone in your mentoring, right, who may have a harder time to even come up with one idea? What would you say to someone who has like, but Ray, I have so many business ideas. How the heck do I
Mm,
like narrow it down and focus? And like, how did you manage your day to day life and like balancing this in your startup?
so good. That was so good because when I tell you, I I am that person 100%. I have probably started, learned a lesson, and kept it pushing. I've started a lot of different things, tried a lot of different things. So my advice would be to try it. My advice is to always come up with a plan, because don't ever go into anything blindly if you can help it. I mean, there's Chat GPT, there's Google, there's people. Let's remember that we have people as resources. Use your network. I would say, hey, if you're interested in being a plumber and starting your own business, why not go to the source? There are plenty of people who welcome phone calls, different businesses. I've done it actually. I've reached out to several people and said, hey, I'm starting this. Some people will share the goods, the bads, and everything in between. And some people will say, guess what? You got to learn it on your own. And that's okay as well, right? So you just kind of pivot, and find people who are willing to listen and willing to help you, and you just try it. And when things get too hard, um go to the next thing. Just joking. You
No,
gotta.
but that's
It
kind
can
of
work
that's
though.
that's a key lesson I'm learning from you is don't give up,
Literally.
just keep trying. And I think it really is because I'm also someone who has a ton of ideas, but
Right.
I'm like a little like can be overwhelmed. I'm looking at my list of like ideas, but it really is okay. Pick one thing and like literally just
And
go
just
forth and do
but Yeah, and what I was gonna say is sometimes that one thing doesn't even work out. So go to the next thing on the list, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You have one life to live. Um, if you're Tux, you have nine, but we won't talk about him.
Yeah, that's one of my cats. Yeah, Tux. He's amazing. I'll
Right?
bring him on one episode. Yeah.
Right? So he can show us how he's living. But I think that you have to just put your best foot forward. Like literally, there's TikTok. There's so many influencers and entrepreneurs and people who have tried it so that you
Mhm,
can, or so that you can't. And if you literally go on the internet, people have a paper trail, a digital footprint of them trying something and whether it worked or
mhm,
not. So just do your research, and kind of just go from there. But I'm always the person to tell people to do it, because as
mhm,
crazy as it may sound, that may be the difference between you and generational wealth. You know,
mhm,
so sometimes you
mhm,
got to put your foot on that pedal and make the difference. There's a girl here right now. She was like, "Oh, oh no, I want to get some chickens and start a farm." She was like, "But I live here and we live in an urban community." I'm like, "Girl, listen, you do what you feel like you need to do as long as you're following the rules, you're following the
mhm,
law, and those animals are protected and not being harmed." There are chickens all up and through here, okay? And now she has an entire viral page on TikTok about her chickens that she got, and she's growing them up now here. So I was like,
wow.
look how simple that is.
Mhm,
Just go for it. Your story may be a little bit different, but you gotta shoot for it, man. Well, not maybe
mhm.
don't shoot for it. Let's just go for it. We're not gonna even
Yeah.
use that.
No, but you're as you're talking, right? Like your story is meant to be shared. Your creativity is meant to be shared. And I think
I
that's
hope
what
it
I'm
is
taking
in life.
away. Um, and you mentioned something else. I'll come back. I'll remember it. But I also definitely want to ask you, like, what worked for you? Talking like specifics again, because I
Mhm.
loved hearing about like the basics of a plan. um, what worked for you in terms of like branding and social media and getting the and advertising? Because I think
Yes,
that was kind of the two nuts and bolts, was both making sure I asked you about
yes.
the business plan and then the branding and getting the word out there.
Yes. So branding and getting the word out there is probably the meat and bones of any business, right? In such a world right now where social media presence is everything. I mean everything. We're starting to pivot a little bit to the old school, like newspaper and things like that, the
Mm,
print. Yeah, but right now social media is king. Um, it was imperative, like imperative that I had a social media presence, especially on the main factors. I mean, the platforms. You gotta have Instagram, you gotta have TikTok, Twitter, or whatever the heck it is now, X. Then you have threads. There's just so many to keep
Mm-hmm.
up with, but you want to have a presence, even if you just establish yourself on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. I think that's always a great start. And also with TikTok, I don't really recommend that for everyone because there's a certain I guess you could say, voice and audience that is on there. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
not ready to sometimes be berated or told that your items suck and things like that, you probably shouldn't go on there yet, because it's just a lot more. It's like different levels to entrepreneurship, right? And
Mm-hmm.
unless you're
Mm-hmm.
ready to get the feedback that you probably don't want to hear, probably don't go on TikTok yet. But I literally leverage my own social media accounts and then created accounts for the brand. So mostly the audience that I had kind of just followed over to the new platforms and things like that. So they were already familiar. I kind of let up that I was creating my brand. So a lot of people already were familiar with what I
Mm-hmm.
was doing. So when it happened, people caught the drift. Let's turn that do not disturb back on. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. And I realized that I needed to really, really, really take over, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when I say take over, I mean you need to post and come up with a plan so that people know who you are. They need to see you, to believe you, and to know you. And then from there, they'll fall in love with whatever product or whatever service or thing that it is that you're selling or presenting or offering to them. It's very just very important. I started off well. Normally, my regular social media page I post daily, but when I'm talking for social media, when I wanted to sell something and building up that platform for that, I was probably posting 6 to 10 times daily just on my stories, and then maybe on an actual like picture or a product or something like that, I'd probably do once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, people and clothes kind of do all the speaking that it needs to do, right? So
Mm-hmm.
from there people see the photos of people wearing
Mm-hmm.
it, and then you kind of get this sense of FOMO. It's like, whoa, 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 what is this that everyone's wearing, and how do I get my hands on it? So I kind of kept that factor. So FOMO is a huge tactic that I use with my brand. Everything is exclusivity. Same thing with the promotion. Exclusivity. You can't get it. There's only 40 of these hats. There's only 60 hoodies. There'll only be 3 jackets. Like, we are keeping it so exclusive that if you don't come
Mm-hmm.
and get it now, you won't ever see it again. And then also too, who wants to wear what everyone's wearing? You know, I don't want to be surrounded by the same people wearing the same thing. And if they're wearing it, I want to show them who's wearing it better. So, we kind of create this like, there's this narrative that I've created, and it's
Mm-hmm.
in the way that I'm marketing. So even in like certain posts, it's like, I'll post a hat and I'll be like, I bet you'll be the only one wearing this, things like that that
Mm-hmm.
will, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
encourage people to you know, to feel that confidence, or to feel
Mm-hmm.
like, for lack of better words, to feel like they're the
Mm-hmm.
you want to
Mm-hmm.
feel like you're so, like you're untouchable. You want
Mm-hmm.
to feel like you're the best dressed. You want to feel like you look the best. And that's the dream that I'm selling everywhere,
Uh,
everywhere.
uh,
And you can,
let's.
and literally with Facebook ads and things like that, you can literally get away with a $10 budget. And when I tell you, you can touch over thousands of people with just a $10 budget. And shout out to our work with turningpointct.org. I wouldn't have learned half of um, the things that I've learned in my expertise with ad work, and Facebook advertising and Google advertising, if I didn't start with working with Turning Point and doing all of that work for the website. So all the jobs that you have now, they help you. They really, really help you to be successful. If you take
Mm-hmm.
all the right things, and you learn from every position that you're in, and you take you take the experiences and you take the people from, you know what I mean? It all works out.
Hmm. Hmm.
You never know what you need till you need it. So
Absolutely. No, it's like being a lifelong learner, always learning, always growing. And I will give a quick plug. So yes, Ray and I met on the Turning Point CT project, which is really an online hub for young people in their mental wellness
yes.
connection. I will give for this podcast a plug. They recently went under their own rebranding. So for our listeners,
Wow. I need to check it
you
out.
will probably still hear me call it Turning Point CT because I'm kind of like stuck in my ways a little bit and I just
I
love it and all
know.
that.
Throwback.
But in spirit of this podcast being factually correct, it's
Right.
actually now rebranded as Connecticut Support Group. So if you
Okay.
as you go on, it is that is still one and the same. And as they're
Connecticut support
adding
group.
more peer support on there, it's incredible. I also want to give a plug. Street Smart Ventures is hosting one of our marketplace events May 14th
Yeah.
in Cromwell. Ren Ray would love to chat with you later, see if you can join. We have
I would
vendor booth
love that.
spaces. We get to do presentations, workshops. So this is another. The wheels are turning. Would love to
I
kind of
would
see you
love
in
it.
person. This is
Absolutely.
just the beginning of more partnerships and collaboration, which is what we're all
Yes. And shout out to you. I must say, shout out to you for bringing I just feel like you're bringing such a youthful vibe and just really helping to give what it is that we wanted and needed, during these all of these processes. So thank you. I wish that when we were, 10 years ago, being able to look at people like us and have, voices like ours be heard. So it's amazing. Shout out to you.
now, Ed, to you right now. You're so sweet. Thank you so much. But it brought me back to a meeting like where one of the peers on the project, um, said part of their journey in wanting to get into this work in the peer community and just helping to support young people is they didn't have an adult version of themselves to like look up to see, oh, is that possible for me? Can I actually live a great life on my own terms, whatever that looks like for that person? And that's what we're
Right.
all about, each
That's
of us
right.
bringing our own strengths, our own gifts, our own talents, our own time,
Right.
all that.
Love
And
that.
so, kind of like, I know this is we're at a great wrap up point, Ray, but before we close out, is there anything final you want to say that's on your mind or heart for our listeners?
Yes, I just want to say that I believe in you all. And I know right now, in a world that seems so crazy, and it just seems like there's no day that we get to relax, right? It just feels like every day there's something new. There's a new thing to fight. There's a new issue, right? Through it all, I want you all to know that I believe in you, and I know that the impact that you can make will be a lot powerful if you do it together. If you do it in a way that is through love and peace, I think that everything that we're working on can work. I just think that we need to stick together and just remember, through love, everything is possible. And let's just change the world. And I think that we just need some more love. So I just want them all to know, to the youth all over the world, we believe in you. And it's not a fight that you guys are having by yourselves. And we're here to support you in any way that you need it.
Said so beautifully, Ray. Yes, we are here for you. We've got your
Yeah.
back, and we're doing this together. And until next time, everyone, thanks so much for listening. Until
See
next
you
time,
later.
bye bye.